um, on our website, which is also to access as our YouTube channel. We also have Becky Bellini online as well, and she is going to be monitoring the Q&A section and answering questions as she is able to. But if there are any questions that can be answered after we are done presenting, we will go ahead and address those then. Okay, but we did want to go ahead and start going. Thank you so much for coming. This is actually a presentation that we gave to your seniors a couple of weeks ago. We asked them to come to the theater. We kind of divided up by alpha, and we went over their post-grad plans and kind of just went over the nuts and bolts of things that they should be focusing on. So a lot of the stuff that we did talk about is the college application process. How to add colleges in Naviance, what is required for a letter of recommendation, knowing if they even need a recommendation for applying to colleges, and other timelines, just kind of making sure that they're finalizing their college list and next steps so that we can help support them the best that we can. So a lot of info was shared in a short amount of time. Hopefully some of them talked to you about it. A lot of them are really on the ball and starting to get on their applications now. But just kind of want to go over what we talked with the seniors about, kind of a shorter version of it. All right, so as we do talk with our seniors, we know that there are a lot of different options for after you graduate from high school. Many of them we will be addressing, and many of them are during different parts of the school year. So even though today we are talking a lot about applying to that 4-year, that's because that's the season we're in. Right? So there are other seasons where we will be focusing more when it is time to open up that application for things like community college and vocational trade school. Some of the things we wanted to point out that a lot of our students are considering, such as on here, the military. We do advise students to go on to military.com. This is where you can really explore the many different career options in this field, connect with a recruiter if they would like to. But we also have recruiters who come to our campus regularly throughout the school year. They visit with Mrs. Nichols, and they do come a few times throughout the year. So if you do have an interest in joining the military, we recommend that you connect with Mrs. Nichols as soon as possible so she can let you know the dates that they're coming in the fall and in the spring. Obviously, another thing too that is becoming very, very popular amongst a lot of our students and graduates is vocational and trade school, lots of different certificate programs in many different areas. So students who do kind of know specifically what they would like to focus on in many different areas, such as medical care and cosmetology, construction, technology, automotive, agriculture, STEM. So there's just so many different options. I think a lot of people, when they think vocational trade, they're thinking, the typical plumbers, pipe fitters, steamers, that kind of a thing. But there are so many different programs that students can take advantage of and really get into amazing careers pretty quickly once they complete their certificate programs. So another thing where Mrs. Nichols also does work with a lot of vocational schools in the nearby area. And if there is an interest, maybe a student does have an interest in a certain area like carpentry or something, and they haven't come to visit, she will make that happen. So make sure that you reach out to her if you do have questions about that.
There was also a really wonderful CTE fair last year that was really successful that they will be doing again. And I think that was hosted at San Ramon Valley last year.
Yes, CTE as in Career Technical Education.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Yeah. All right, and then the ones that, maybe a lot of our students are more familiar with are the community college, starting out and potentially pursuing an associate's degree or certificate as well. They also have a lot of different vocational and transfer programs for our students. Now, this is definitely a big population of our students who do go on to community college. And I know that a lot of this conversation might not happen tonight, and that's because we do focus on that application in the spring semester of their senior year. That is when we do have our local community colleges such as DVC and Las Positas. They will come out to visit and go over the application process because that's when that timeline happens. So right now we are talking a little bit more about the college and university, the 4-year track, students who are pursuing applying directly to a 4-year university right after high school. And a lot of that is kind of what we're going to be talking about in this particular presentation. But trust me when I say that, like I said, seasonally, we do cover all of those other areas. So if students are interested in those other career options, then we do take care of that as well, and talk with our students and work with them. So that process is kind of starting right now for a lot of our seniors. So one thing that we tell all of our seniors to do is to make sure that they bookmark the Senior Survival Guide. You can get this through our Cal High Counseling website. It's just a really good, helpful guide for all of our seniors. It goes over, timelines and checklists, scholarship resources, financial aid resources as well. It has ways to help you navigate Naviance as you are figuring that out for college applications, NCAA for our future student athletes. So there's lots of different tips on there that really help our students. So I always tell all of our seniors to make sure to go here, bookmark it so that you have access to it and are using it regularly. All right, so as we talk about creating the whole college list, now, a lot of kids are figuring this piece out, and I think that a lot of our kids, early on in their sophomore and junior year, they might have like a big list of schools that they're looking at, but what we're really hoping is that they narrow it down to probably 12 to 15 schools. That is the goal. I think that we do have a lot of students who end up applying to more, and I'll kind of get into that a little bit more when we look at the next page. But generally, the target is really going to be about 12 to 15. You're going to have 2 to 3 schools that are reach schools. You're going to have 3 to 4 schools that are target. I'll go over that in detail again. And 2 to 3 that are likely schools. Schools that are, you're most likely to get into. All right. And I think one thing, that we always say is that, if there is a school on there that you for sure know that you would not be happy attending, really, there is an elimination process. So if you're getting like, excuse me, 25 to 30 schools, you should really consider narrowing it down a little bit more. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I always say if you wouldn't be happy to show up in that college sweatshirt at the end of June, end of May, then that's a good sign that it doesn't belong on your list. There's so many wonderful colleges out there that if you're not happy with them, that just means we need to do a bit more research and find those really good fit schools.
All right, so kind of like what I mentioned on the last page, your reach schools are the ones where we all know them. They're the schools where you may be qualified and you may have, a great resume and a great transcript, but there is that possibility that it's a reach and there's like less than a 30% chance that you'll get in. There's the target schools that are a little more where you feel like, okay, this is kind of a good match, right? And then of course the likely schools are the schools where most likely there is a very high percentage that you will be accepted to that school. Now we also have thrown in the wildcard schools. Those are the schools where unfortunately, there are like the Stanfords, UCLA, the Berkeley, where you could be absolutely qualified for that school and have everything that we would want for a student to be able to attend that school. And because the demand is so high that even our most qualified students are denied. So we do, you can leave some room for some of those wildcard schools. I think one of the things that I hear often from kids is when they're putting so many schools on their list and they're like, oh, I just want to see if I get in. And that is the exact reason to not put a school on your list. I think that, trying to stack as many acceptances as you can is not a great thing. I think that, what may be a school that you're just trying to see if you get in could be another student's dream school. So always remember that as well. And I think that, I know a lot of students out there have private college counselors and they're telling you, 20, 25, 30, that's totally fine. But it makes it is more stressful for our students. We really encourage our students to think very carefully about what schools that they know that if this was the only school that I got into, I would be okay going there, or I would be happy to go there. So make sure that you're asking yourself that about each of the schools that you have on your list and that you're doing the research and thinking about it thoughtfully.
Yeah, if anyone knows that time is a really precious resource. It's seniors and their parents, because there's only so many hours in a day. They're already trying to do school, extracurriculars, balance time with their family and friends. So to have more college applications than anyone could reasonably take on, really the end result there is that you're going to submit applications that aren't fully polished, and you'd rather have quality over quantity there.
Exactly. And I think that's the point too, is that you really do want to tailor, especially your essays. You really want to tailor your essays to the schools that you want to go to. When you're applying to so many schools on Common App and you're just writing kind of a general essay, trust me, they can see that. Okay, so you really want to pick schools that you hope to apply to and hope to attend, so that you're able to tailor those essays as such. I'm sorry. Kelly, I'll let you do this one.
Yeah, sounds good. So we did go over with your seniors how they're going to log into Naviance. If Naviance is a new name for you, it is our kind of one-stop shop for all things college applications and self-exploration. So they're going to be in that a lot this year to make sure their college list is up to date, request transcripts, kind of take care of all those components. And they may already be using it to build their college list and learn about themselves. So we're going to talk about some of those things. But parents don't have Naviance accounts. Naviance accounts are for students, and they can get to that through their portal. So if you're wanting to go on with them and see what Naviance is all about, I highly encourage you to sit down with your student and be able to check it out. And we're going to go over some of the kind of key features and things to know with Naviance and how it can support your student this year.
Yeah. So when they log on, this is exactly what they see. All of our students, especially our seniors, we have introduced this to them when they were in 9th grade. They may not have gone on it very much at all. In the junior year, we're really hoping they're starting to research colleges and take a look at what they have to offer on here, doing the inventories, but this is what it looks like when they log on. So on that left-hand side, it'll tell you kind of a message that we have on there, and then lots of different options on this menu in regards to your favorites, self-discovery options, ways to explore careers and colleges as well.
To clarify too, students aren't actually applying to college through Naviance. Those applications will be separate. We'll go over that in just a little bit, but Naviance is kind of a tool to help streamline the process.
Right. So this is a really great thing. I think a lot of times too, parents often ask, my child doesn't know what they want to do, which is a very normal thing. I did not know what I wanted to do either. And so this is a great option for our students to be able to kind of see, take some certain surveys and self-discovery tests so that they can figure out, learn a little bit more about themselves, kind of figure out maybe where their skill set is, their personality type, and it can kind of gear them in the right direction for careers and colleges as well. So just make sure, that you're taking advantage of it. Like it says right here, that a lot of these surveys, you absolutely can access for a price, but here it's for free. So definitely take advantage of the free services on here. So as you know, there's lots of different colleges, thousands actually, where students can look at things. And we talked about this with our students. We kind of went through this site. So again, this would be a good thing to just kind of sit down with them and just kind of see what they have done in regards to the super match, the college match, how they can research colleges. So say if they're interested in physical therapy, they could literally type that in. It'll tell you what relatable majors are to that. It'll also tell you, what colleges offer that major. And then you could click on that college and you can kind of see how you compare to other students who are applying to those schools and the acceptance rates and such. So like I said, there are so many different colleges out there, thousands. And I think that a lot of kids are really starting to open up their, be open to the idea of considering schools, not just in California, but also outside of California. So it's a great way to research schools all around the country. So the scattergram is a really interesting thing. This is some really good data that we are probably coming up on 10 years of data that we have on this from our students who have graduated from Cal High. So this kind of shows you could look at any school, click on the scattergram and see where it falls. So you can see kind of the blue circle is where that student particularly is who's researching it. The green checks show you the students who have been accepted to the university, that particular university. The red X's kind of show you the students who have been denied from that university. And then you can kind of see where the wait list and the unknown kind of falls in there. So as you can see here, it goes off of the GPA measured with their SAT scores. And we ask our students, this is why we do this for our seniors at the end of the school year. We say, please let us know how you did. It doesn't show anywhere else, but it does help our future classes know kind of where they fall. So we do ask all our seniors, say, of all the schools that you applied to, let us know, accepted, denied, rejected, waitlisted, whatever it is, so that we can have all of this data to share for our future classes. So I think it's super helpful. I think a lot of our kids like it. All right, super important. We are probably having, gosh, I think sometimes close to 4 colleges a day visit us. And that's all thanks to Mrs. Nichols. She reaches out to all the universities and makes sure that they can come and visit and speak to our students individually. Usually it's a very small group. I think that, obviously there's some popular colleges that come where we do get a lot of kids, but we have, some great universities that come to visit. The college reps from there who are very familiar with the application process and can answer any question in regards to their college come. So she gets about 4 of those sometimes on a busy day, but usually about 2 on average come each day to visit our school on campus during the week. So she, as you can see here, like just an example of the colleges, you can look on colleges you're thinking about or college visits. You can register ahead of time so that she knows and so that she can send a pass for you when those colleges are here. But like I said, if there are any schools that that are on your top list that you're applying to, absolutely you should be going to that so that you can talk to that person. A lot of times those college reps that are talking with you and answering those questions, like I said, are experts as far as the application process goes and know what the colleges are looking for.
A lot of times they're actually the person that reads the applications from our area. So you would literally get a chance to talk to the person who's going to be making a decision on your application, or at least in part. So yeah, not to be wasted. So even if you already know a lot about the college, it's still great to go to those.
Yeah. All right. So we did give some homework to our seniors because a lot of them we are going to be working with and writing letters of rec. So I think a lot of our seniors, for certain schools and colleges, they do have maybe a teacher letter of rec or 1 or 2 of those that are required. But all of them on the Common App require a recommendation from their counselor. So we do ask our students to be able to fill out a couple of surveys, be able to kind of, I think we have a student questionnaire, we have a guardian questionnaire, but it also allows them to, I think they're able to adjust their scores on there or to make sure they're not visible. But lots of different tasks that students can complete. The 2 that we are really asking from our students are the ones that are needed for the recommendation process that Kelly will be going over pretty shortly here.
Yeah, speaking of really shortly, it's literally now. So thanks, segue, Cheryl. So a lot of students, right, based on kind of what they've heard, they think that everybody applying to college needs a letter of recommendation, which just isn't true. So for students who are applying to community colleges or UCs and CSUs, none of those colleges need letters of recommendation at all. So if your student is purely applying to our California public schools, they don't have to go through the letter of recommendation process. So for students applying to out-of-state private schools, the answer is maybe, and the best way to see that is on their college's website or directly in the Common App. It will tell you what's required for your student. It might say, 2 teacher letters or yes, a counselor letter is required for this. So we really emphasize that these are a labor of love, but they definitely are work for teachers and counselors to be able to write these. So we ask that students don't ask for letters just in case. They really should only ask for them once their college list has demonstrated that there is a need for those. So the process for seniors, when we saw them in the theater, we asked them to fill out a Google form that we were calling the Post-Grad Plan Survey. They've gotten several reminders for that if they haven't completed it. We asked that it was due on the 16th to make sure that we have ample time to get everything in order for them. But if they haven't done that, please have them do it as soon as possible. And that is the way that communicates with us what kind of support they're needing this year, and especially if they do need a counselor letter of recommendation. So that's kind of what we're working through right now, what your student needs in order for us to be able to write them a strong recommendation. The must-haves are the student questionnaire, which was what Cheryl was showing in Naviance under the survey section, and they need to have their college list updated in Naviance. That way we can send the documents needed. The optional but super, super helpful part, and what you can help us with, is if your student is asking for a counselor letter of recommendation, it's been so helpful to have the parents do the guardian questionnaire. We feel like no one's as good at bragging about your kids and their accomplishments as you guys are. So that is really great. And you would just ask your student to log you into their Naviance and you'd get that filled out for us. Whatever information you could provide is always really, really valuable. For teacher letters of recommendation, your student has been instructed to ask their teacher in person if they'd be willing and able to write them a positive letter of recommendation. So if they've said yes, then that's when they go into Naviance and request a letter of recommendation. If a student just goes in and requests a letter in Naviance from a teacher that they didn't talk to, I would bet strongly that the teacher would not do it. They might not even know that they were asked to do it that way. So they need to talk to them in person, or, at worst case scenario, if they don't have access to that teacher anymore, via email. And then a teacher may ask the student to complete the teacher questionnaire in Naviance. Some teachers want that, others are going to write about what they remember from their own experiences. But generally, it's really great for a student to remind a teacher of what that student's strengths were in their class and basically, why are you asking this teacher to be a recommender for you? Last but not least, the last step of the letter of recommendation process for seniors is to send thank you cards. Like I said, this is a lot of work of teachers. They're doing it outside of their contract hours. So to make sure that that staff gets a nice thank you, and more importantly, or equally as importantly, following up to say what the outcome was. Where are you going to college? The teachers ask us all the time, oh, I sent this letter for so-and-so and now I don't know where they're going, and they want to celebrate in the good news with you. So please share that with them as well. So this is what your students were shown. Again, this isn't really information that you need to know. This is for your student, but they are going to request this teacher letter of recommendation in Naviance after they've already confirmed with that teacher in person that they would be happy to write a letter for them. So like I said, applications don't actually happen in Naviance. They're going to happen on separate sites. Naviance talks directly to Common App. And what I mean by that is your student will actually link their Common App account with their Naviance account, which makes it so easy for us to send the documents and everything needed. So that one will be linked in Naviance. Other than Common App, your students will indicate in Naviance they're applying direct to institution, which basically for the purposes of this just means not Common App. So that would be the UC application, the Cal State Apply, CCC Apply for community colleges, schools that use the Coalition application, or the many, many other colleges that just have students apply through a portal on their website. So anything in that category would be direct to institution, but transcripts are almost always, a little asterisk there. I feel like in college admissions, you can never say always for everything, but almost always sent through Naviance still for those schools. So Common App matching, again, this was instruction that your seniors got directly. You can see on the red screen right here, this has not been done. They need to match accounts, and that will take them to the Common App website where they'll put in their Common App username and password, and then it will show that it's matched. The second step of it, and just again, this is stuff that your seniors need to know, but it's good for you to be familiar with this verbiage in case you have any questions about it, or they do, you can talk about it together, is the FERPA waiver. So this is something that they would need to do in their common application for us to be able to release information. And basically the long story short of what this is saying is it's your student waiving their right to read the letters of recommendation. And this allows colleges to know that they can trust these letters, that they're not being influenced by someone being able to see them. There are true, honest opinion They can trust every word of this glowing review. It's not just glowing because the student is reading it. So that is the FERPA waiver, and that would have to be waived in order for us to send documents successfully. And again, they do this through the Common App. These slides and all this information is also on our Senior Survival Guide. I advertise the Senior Survival Guide as their one-stop shop when they're working on college applications when they probably should be asleep, because we all know that the counselor's not going to answer the email at 12:30 on a Sunday morning, but the Senior Survival Guide's there, and it has the information about how to do FERPA and what's the senior class size and do we rank. All those things that students need to know to get these applications done successfully are on that survival guide. So this is our little breakdown that we showed to your students in terms of how we work as a team to make their college application process successful. So things that they have responsibility for are the actual applications themselves and requesting that transcripts be sent. We'll take care of sending them, but we only send them to the places we know about. So they need to request that. And again, it's typically through Naviance. For students who have taken classes at other places, maybe at DVC, they will also need to send transcripts from there as well when requested. Some schools do allow self-report, so save yourself the money and make sure that they're actually wanting the transcripts before you pay to have them sent. But that is on the student. Completing the letter of request process, which again, for most students has already been initiated, but if not, please get on that quickly. SAT, ACT scores, those nowadays with test optional, that looks very different in a lot of places, but if you do need test scores sent, then you would need to request directly through the testing agency. The school does not send those, so you would request them through either the College Board or act.org. One key thing is if you add more colleges to your list, make sure to add recommenders to make sure they all get sent. I know after I send mine, I cross it off my to-do list. I'm not going back to check to see if students added more colleges. I'm expecting that they tell me if they do. And lastly, if they need mid-year reports or final reports, that doesn't happen until the spring. We will take care of that in January once first semester grades are posted, but we know that students sometimes have questions about what is this mid-year report that they're talking about. What the school takes care of is the letters of recommendation. Your counselor also takes care of something called a secondary school report and a school profile. Those, if you've told us that you're applying to these private or out-of-state schools, we know that they'll need to be sent. So yeah, that's basically just giving information about the context of our school. It tells about our school policies. Really the biggest thing we hear from colleges is that you are evaluated within the context of your high school. So we tell what our policies are, that way they can be fair in their evaluation of your student. And of course, how parents and guardians can come in to support. That's why you're here. That's why you're on this call at 6:30 on a Thursday night. You want to know how you can help your kid through this process. So one thing that we like to remind families is that your student is in the driver's seat and you're in the passenger seat for this. So definitely, if they are asking you for directions or needing your support, you're there and ready to help. But this is a really important process for your student to go through. They need to know what's happening with their college application process. They need to do their research and find out the schools where they feel like be a good fit. They need to have their voice in their essays. So all of those things are the reason why your student is the primary driver of this. We found that a lot of families, they like to have a weekly date, because one thing that we hear from our seniors is they're tired of talking about college. It's the first thing anybody asks them. So to have a designated time and not just get bombarded with college questions all day, every day, they find super helpful. Proofreading is great. As I said, with the essays, they really want to hear the student voice come through. So you'd be more of a resource for grammar or typos, but they really want the essay to sound like a 17-year-old wrote it, because the 17-year-old is who they're admitting to college. Completing the questionnaire. As I said, y'all tend to be really, really good about telling us why your kid is awesome, and we love you for that. So if you could help us out with the letter rec process by doing that questionnaire, that'd be much appreciated. Financial aid night. So that's kind of a plug for our next event, which is coming up on October 10th. We do have a financial aid night. You might have heard terms like the FAFSA or the CSS profile, EFC, all these different things that you don't know yet, and that's okay. That's why we're having this information night, to kind of get you acquainted to financial aid and how to do that. The FAFSA does open on October 1st and it's due March 2nd, but we're really hopeful that our seniors will have it taken care of by the time they leave for winter break. Just one less thing to stress out about in the new semester. And of course, really importantly, stress relief and reassurance. I tell students all the time that however this college application process goes, it's not a reflection on them. Grades can feel really like an identity crisis almost for students, where they feel like they've become their grades, and we all know that there's so much more than that. So whatever happens with college applications, providing them reassurance and thinking about paths forward, whatever that might look like. Okay, so this is kind of what's next for your seniors. It's similar to what we were just talking about, but here's kind of the action items for now. So attending those college rep visits, like Cheryl was saying, it's a great opportunity to meet those recruiters from the colleges. Keeping that Naviance up to date is important. That senior survival guide, like I said, there's a lot of useful information in there. There's some old slide decks that we've talked about looking at College Fit. There's information about the UC and CSU apps, tips for writing the personal insight questions for the UC application. All that and more can be found there. So it's a really robust resource that I'm just going to keep pointing to because it's there and ready to be used. UC CSU app, without fail, every year it crashes on like November 30th at 11:50 p.m. because everybody is trying to submit at that time. So our rule is submit that application before you eat your turkey on Thanksgiving. Just check that off, get that taken care of. Don't go through the stress of wondering if it's going to process in time before the deadline. For students who need a letter of recommendation, post-grad plan survey, get that done to let us know. Make sure you ask your teachers if you need one from them, and then completing that questionnaire would be a next step. So I know that was a lot of information in a short amount of time. I can see that Becky was in the chat answering a bunch of really awesome questions. So I wanted to see what she was saving for Q&A for us to talk about live.
Yeah, I mean, I think she actually answered a bunch of them really well and did a great job of answering a lot of them. There's a couple of them that I did see. One was asking about early decision and, just kind of wanted to make sure and put a reminder out there that early decision is binding. Okay. So if you're deciding that you're wanting to apply early decision to a school, it's because it is your dream school. And if you do get into that school, you're planning to withdraw your applications to any other school that you've applied to. So make sure that, obviously, like I said, the early decision and early action, a lot of people have asked, well, is there, a higher percentage chance? Remember that for early decision, you're right, the applicant pool, they are assuming that this is, a school that you're really wanting to go to. It's very hard to say whether or not there's a higher percentage chance of you getting into that school. A lot of it is dependent on many different factors, including the major that you're applying to, and many other things, or how many they're accepting at that school. Roughly, I would say, for those early decision, the data out there says, that 10% increase of a chance. However, remember, this is a school where, it's a target school, and it is a school that, that if you get into that school, you're withdrawing your applications. Okay. You can also apply early action to many schools as well. Those are not binding. You are able to do that. Most of those, the deadline is November 1st. I think one of the other questions, I think she answered most of them. I don't think there's any others that may need to be answered otherwise.
Yeah, there really weren't any common questions. They were all sort of one-offs.
Okay, so the two requirements I think that we are asking of our students who require a letter of rec, they're not really requirements. One definitely is a student questionnaire, okay, is that we would like our students to do. And then of course the guardian questionnaire if they're able to. And then just an update of their resume, which is they can access on Naviance, so that we can kind of know a list of their extracurriculars. But like I said, we are setting up individual meetings with our students who are requiring a letter of recommendation. Many of us are kind of doing it individually. We're either sending out appointment times to our students, or like I have sent out a couple of emails to all of my seniors who are asking for a letter of recommendation. I sent them a link of my calendar so that they can kind of choose what day and time works best for them. So all the counselors are reaching out to their students individually who are asking for a letter of rec so that we can make sure that we're meeting with them making sure that we have the deadlines properly on there. Now, I know that sometimes the deadlines might be different on Naviance, and so we will go off of the deadline that your child gives us, as far as what they've researched with the university. If there's a special program they're applying to, or if there's a particular scholarship they're applying to, and they might have a different deadline, that's the deadline that we will go off of, and make sure that everything is sent on time.
Yeah, and I will say, because I don't know if we talked about it, the best times for your students to ask us questions, like obviously they could always shoot us an email, but there are so many times where I'm like, wow, this would be a million times easier to answer in person, or if it's a Naviance issue, to look at what they're looking at versus trying to explain it over computer. But break, lunch, and then typically before or after school, some counselors, in order to cover the whole school day, work before the first bell and some work after the last bell. So depending on your student's counselor. Yeah, but always break or lunch, really great times to drop in for a question.
Absolutely. I fully expect to see seniors on a regular basis during this time of the school year. So make sure that they're dropping in and asking questions early and often. I feel like I'm just seeing here, I'm just double checking any of these questions. And again, it looks like Becky is working super fast and answering them in the chat. We have recorded this session, so we will make sure that it's available to parents and to families on our website. I think there was a question on there too, just making sure we will put it on our Cal High Counseling website. The Senior Survival Guide is linked there also under College and Career under our Cal High website.
Yes, sounds good. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, yes, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording because it looks like our questions have trickled off.
We have.